How should you own your rental investment property? Should it be under your personal name, or should you own it jointly with your spouse, with your children, or even a friend or business partner? And if so, what sort of joint ownership should it be? Or should you set up a limited company where you and your family or others are shareholders? So you want to buy a rental property because you know that unlike paper investments, property is a tangible physical asset that gives long-term security. Even if the financial world collapses, the property is still there. It grows in value over the long term, usually better than inflation, and gives good rental income, much higher than savings. So you want to buy, but who should be the owner? Now, when people are buying one or two low cost properties with cash to get immediate passive income, then the vast majority of them buy personally under their own or joint names. Buying via limited company is in general better for those using mortgages, buying multiple properties, wanting to reduce inheritance tax, high rate taxpayers, and those who are planning to build a large portfolio and reinvest rental income to get more property. About 25% of our clients use a company. I've done a separate video on who should buy using a limited company and the pros and cons of doing this. The link is in the description below. In this video, I'm going to talk about personal ownership, which accounts for 75% of our clients. This can be with a single owner or jointly with two or more owners. We also explain the two main types of joint ownership and discuss the pros and cons of each. Please watch the video to the end as I also explain why, no matter who the owners are, the property should be owned passively so the owners don't have the costs and liabilities of being the active landlord. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. T and I've been in the property business for almost 50 years. Here's a bit about me. In the 1980s, whilst working as a junior doctor, my hobby was computers, and I co-founded one of the UK's largest PC manufacturers with over 3,000 staff. Computer making moved to China, and during the past 17 years, I researched and analysed the UK property market and developed a property business for 100% passive investors, which currently looks after almost 3,000 properties and is now run by my children and over 100 staff. I really enjoy helping people with property investment and making videos like this. Please hit the like button, drop a comment below, subscribe, and hit the bell. Let's get back to the video. Who is personal ownership suitable for? There's no hard and fast rule. Many factors, including possible future plans, need to be considered. My clients normally finalize this after they've had a Zoom meeting with me to discuss the pros and cons of personal ownership. I've listed 5 categories of cash buyers for whom personal ownership can be suitable. Non-taxpayers, low-rate taxpayers, buying one or two houses only, buying to get income right now, little or no inheritance tax liability. Let's go through each of these categories. The first category, non-taxpayers, usually have the UK personal allowance of £12,570 per person per year, below which no tax is payable. So if the total UK income, including the rent, is below this, then there is no tax to pay. A company has no personal allowance, so 19% tax would be payable. In this case, personal ownership is good. Now, many non-resident clients fall into this category as they have no other UK income. Sometimes, if one partner is a high-rate taxpayer and the spouse is not working, it can be beneficial to have the property owned by the spouse who is not working. The second category, low-rate taxpayers, normally have UK income less than 50,000 but more than 12,570. They would pay 20% tax on rent, increasing to 22% next year following the budget. This is similar to the average company rate, so no big advantage in setting up a company for this reason. Those with no UK income could own 6 or 7 houses before they become high-rate taxpayers. but would need to look at inheritance tax liability to ensure the total value for a couple remained below £650,000. Again, many overseas residents fall into this category as they may not have much other UK income, so they can buy multiple properties personally. Of course, the personal allowances and low rate tax thresholds apply to each person. A couple with no other UK income thus can have a total of over £25,000 of tax-free rent in the UK, meaning they could buy 4 or more low-cost houses without paying any tax, no matter if they're owned singly or jointly. The third category is where clients are buying 1 or 2 houses with cash. Here, even higher rate taxpayers may sometimes consider personal ownership. This avoids the cost of setting up and maintaining a limited company. This is especially so if they're buying the property to get rental income personally now. In such a case, company ownership could result in higher tax being paid. With a company, at least 19% corporation tax is paid, and then for higher rate taxpayers, there could be 33.75% or more dividend tax on income taken out. But normally they would first take out the loan they gave their company to buy the property in the first place, as this can be taken out tax-free. Finally, if you're not likely to have any or significant inheritance tax liability, you could consider personal ownership. You can still consider this if your assets were more than £650,000 for a couple, providing you plan to gift some of your properties to your children later. This needs to be done at least 7 years before you go, but it's difficult to plan for this. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's a good time. We publish content every week on UK property investing. Hit the bell and like. It really helps the channel and ensures you're notified when the next video is released. So you've decided to buy under personal ownership. Should you own it just yourself or jointly? It's about 50-50 with our clients. When it's joint ownership, normally it's 2 owners. You can have more than 2 owners, and sometimes buyers have 3, but it comes administratively tedious to have many owners. And if this is needed, best to set up a limited company with multiple shareholders. When properties are owned jointly, then usually around 80% are with the spouse, about 15% are with children, and about 5% with friends or business partners. In terms of type of joint ownership, there are 2 types. It can be joint tenants ownership or tenants in common ownership. Joint tenants is over 90% of joint ownerships. Here, each owner technically owns the whole property legally, but has 50% of the beneficial ownership. So if one passes away, all of the property goes to the other without need for a will or extensive paperwork. Typically, husband and wife use this type of ownership. For income and tax purposes, each owner is deemed to get 50% of the rent and would pay the appropriate tax on this. Parent and child joint ownership is also typically joint type of ownership. If parent passes away, the property would become owned by the child. In such a case, 50% of the property value would still count in the estate for the parent for inheritance tax purposes, as they had 50% beneficial ownership before passing away. Now, the second type of joint ownership, tenants in common ownership, is where each party owns a percentage, which can be different to 50-50 and is more suited to friends and business partners. If one of them passes away, their share does not automatically go to the other, but passes to their beneficiaries and family, or as per their will. The income is also split exactly as per the shareholding in the property. Sometimes husband and wife also use tenants in common ownership if they want their share of the property to pass as per their own wills. Also, they can have uneven ownership. For example, the husband, a high rate taxpayer, may want to own just 1% to get less rental income, and his wife, a lower rate taxpayer, may want to own 99% to get most of the rental income. This reduces the overall tax to a lower level than it would be for 50-50 ownership in this case. So you can see that properties can be owned in various ways, and it's important to discuss this prior to proceeding with the purchase. And no matter how the property is owned, what's most important is that it should be owned 100% passively, with no landlord liabilities and costs for the owner. That way, they don't need to worry about the tenancy or property maintenance. Please watch the message from our sponsor at the end on exactly how this passive form of property investment works. Thanks for watching.
If you want to invest in property and get 7% net rent, long-term capital growth, no costs or liabilities ever, do nothing yourself, and be living anywhere in the world, then consider Find UK Property. They provide 100% passive investment solutions for long-term income from freehold properties starting at under 80k. You get a property that is affordable, fully renovated, already rented out, contractually guaranteed and productive from day one. You become the owner and rent it back to Find UK Property so that they become your tenants and look after all aspects of the property in a fully compliant way. You never need to deal with tenants, estate agents, or do any property maintenance or repairs, or pay for any costs. Find UK Property look after over 2,500 houses, all of which are sublet to their own tenants. And on average, they get more rent from their tenants than they have to pay the property owners. So that way they can cover all the property costs. Their solutions are great for those wanting to retire on pension-type income or gradually build large property portfolios passively in a tax-efficient manner. Please visit the website at findukproperty.com and speak to a consultant today.